Recently, Kenny from Facebook asked me, how do you keep your cool and stay motivated when things are not going badly around you? Well, here's some tips for me to stay motivated when times are rough. First of all, remember the natural tendency of human beings when they have a reversal of any kind is to blame someone else for the problem. And so the starting point of staying in control mentally and emotionally is refuse to blame anyone else. The magic words are the words, I am responsible. I am responsible. Even if you didn't do anything to cause the problem, you are responsible for how you behave. Now here's a second point, is when things go against you, when you have problems or difficulties, everybody's watching you to see how you behave. So the rule is, be cool, be calm, just be relaxed. I wrote a whole book on this called, I was going to call it Crunch Time, and they called it Crunch Point. But it basically said this, is when something goes wrong, there's several things that you can do to stay in control. Number one, resolve to stay calm. Number two is get the facts. Sometimes when things go wrong, when they have problems, you don't have enough facts. Sometimes it's not really a problem at all, or in most cases it's not as big a problem as you thought. And the way you do that is by asking questions. Ask questions, say, what exactly happened here? Who did what? When did it happen? How did it happen? And then, how do we know that it happened? Another way to deal with problems is to write it down and say, what exactly is the problem that I'm concerned about? We find that if you can use your brain to write down the problem on paper, in most cases it begins to solve itself. Once you've written it down, you say, all right, what are all the possible solutions to this problem? What could we do now to minimize the damage? What could we do now to take advantage of the situation? Is it really a problem? Sometimes when you have a reversal, it's nature's way of telling you, don't go in this direction. 80% of products that are introduced by the smartest marketers in the world fail every year. And what they do is they learn, if this didn't work, maybe something else will. And by trying something different, often they develop a product or service or strategy that makes them a great success. And communicate with others. Tell everybody else what is going on. The very act of communicating with other people keeps you calm and more thoughtful. Finally, make a decision. What action are you going to take immediately to solve this problem, to resolve this difficulty? Remember, successful people, leaders, are intensely action-oriented. Your great question is always, what is my next action? What is my next action? What do I do now? And then finally get so busy solving the problem and bringing about a solution that you don't have time to think about it or worry about it anymore. This is one of the great strategies throughout all of history, is get so busy taking action that you don't have time to worry or be concerned about what other people may be thinking or feeling. So thanks for watching this video. Did you like this episode? Make sure to subscribe and tell a friend about it. For exclusive content on sales training, leadership, business, and personal success, visit me at briantracy.com, and while you're there, sign up for my newsletter. Until next time, do the things today that will guarantee you the kind of life you want to live tomorrow.
How do you deal with people in a difficult and awkward situation and not let that situation drain or affect you? How do you stop focusing on or replaying what happened in your mind afterwards and move forward from it?
Well, one of the most important principles for success is not to worry about things that you can't do anything about. And you can't do anything about a past event. We say in life there's only 3 periods of time. There's the past, which you can't change. There's the present, which is a moving point between the past and the future. And then there's the future. One of the things that I learned many, many years ago, which had a profound effect on my thinking, was that since you can't change the past, you can change the future by what you do today. So your actions and your decisions today can change the future. So the answer is just forget about the past. You can't change it. You can't do anything about it. You know that 90% of all unhappiness in our world today, and the entire fields of psychology, psychiatry, and psychotherapy, are all based on helping people deal with and talk about things that happened in the past that cannot be changed. So what you find is that self-actualizing people, the top 10% of people, think about the future most of the time. They think about their dreams and their goals most of the time. They think about actions that they can take immediately most of the time. And they get so focused and so busy creating their futures, they don't have time to think about the past. Now, one last thing that's been very helpful to me is if you've made a mistake or something has happened in the past that's unfortunate, you can cancel it out by simply saying the magic words, I am responsible, I am responsible, I am responsible. If someone has hurt you or you've had a difficult experience in your childhood, you can say, well, I didn't do anything. Yes, but you're responsible for how you respond today. A Nobel Prize-winning study of the evolution of civilizations came up with the term responsibility. Is your ability to respond effectively with the ups and downs and negative events of life is the key measure of your ability to be successful and happy in the future. And what you do is you say, whenever you feel negative or unhappy about anything, you say, wait a minute, I'm responsible. I'm responsible for my life. I'm responsible for what happens. I can't change the past, so I'm not going to spend a second worrying about the past. I'm going to become so busy working on my future and my goals that I don't have time to think about the past. And here's a final point. No matter how brilliant your mind is, and your mind can hold thousands of thoughts over time, you can only hold one thought at a time. So if you fill your mind with the thought of one activity that you can do now that moves you towards your future, you simultaneously block out all other thoughts and feelings of anything else that's happened or that is happening to you. So the only antidote for worry or unhappiness is busy, continuous action in the direction of your goals. And whatever you do repeatedly becomes a habit. So if you keep doing this repeatedly, writing down and thinking about your goals and working on them all day long, eventually, like baggage that you dropped out of your car and drove on, those negative events disappear over the horizon of your past, and you eventually forget about them completely, as you already have with so many negative events from the past. A good friend of mine, a very wise man, says that you can change your life by asking the question, what is my most important value in life every day for a weekend, for 7 days? Just ask it over and over again. What is my most important value in life? Because in life, everything radiates from the inward outward. So your values are like the axle around which your life turns. So to answer your question, my values are family, faith, and freedom. And that sounds like something out of a Reader's Digest book, but it's the result of many, many decades of thinking about it. My family is more important than anything else. Now here's a key point, is whatever value is you place higher, it takes precedence over all lower order values. That means that my family takes precedence over everything. My family's needs, my family's requirements, the needs of my children, my wife, and so on are always number one. Everything else is secondary to that. Now, second of all is faith, is I believe in God. And so I do spiritual reading every day, and I believe very much that there's a great power out there that cares about me and that wants me to be successful and happy. So I'm very respectful of anybody's religious beliefs, and I'm very thoughtful about my own. And then the third is freedom. My third greatest value, which I've practiced all my life, which I've been passionate about, is freedom. Freedom for myself, freedom for my children and my spouse, but freedom for people. I think it's not possible for anybody to be too free. There's a lot of confusion about the subject of freedom in the world today. Many people who want to be as free as possible themselves feel that other people should be controlled by government regulations and taxations and legislation and law and so on. So nobody believes in having their own freedom restricted, but they certainly believe that other people's freedom should be restricted. But the rule is simply this, is whatever you want for yourself, you must also want for other people. Whatever you want for yourself, you must want in equal measure or more for other people. And so that's my values. Family, faith, and freedom. People. All successful people are excellent communicators. In fact, the work at Harvard University on multiple intelligences concluded that social intelligence, the ability to interact well with others, is the highest paid and most respected intelligence in our society. So how do you communicate more effectively with others? My favorite word in communications is the word clarity. Almost all of our problems in life become because of lack of clarity. We say things, but they don't come out clearly. So in order to be clear, first of all, stop, and then think, and then proceed slowly. Another great word is to rephrase or repeat something. Let's say you say something and somebody goes, huh? Or it's clear that they didn't get the message. I speak different languages, French, German, Spanish, and I'm busy working on learning Russian and Chinese now. And one of the things I learned in languages is if you say something in your limited language and they don't seem to understand it, rephrase it and say it again. And if they don't understand it, rephrase it and say it again until people go, ha, now I understand. So effective communication starts with you being very clear in your own mind about what you want to say, and then being very clear when you say it, and then saying it slowly and patiently, and making sure that the other person hears the message that you sent. You know, you can imagine in communications that here is you, and you want to communicate with this person. And so you send a message, almost like a message by telephone or by a carrier pigeon. You send a message into the air in the form of words. These words are then received by the other person, who then interprets the words in their own mind based on their own thoughts, feelings, whether they're paying attention, and so on, and then reformulates or formulates a response and sends the response back. You then receive the response, translate that into meaning and significance, and then you send it back. Between these two responses, there's what are called noise. Noise can be physical noise, outside, around, mechanics, trucks, and so on. But it can also be internal noise. The person can be hungry or distracted. It can be emotional noise. The person can be unhappy or excited. The person can have other noise in that they are interpreting what you say in a different way. So if you think about this, communications requires sending the message and having it received and checking, and then sending the message back and having it received and then checking, and simply going slowly. So it's better to be sure at every stage of the transaction that people are sending and receiving with tremendous clarity. And here's my favorite question of all. When somebody says something that you're not really sure about, say, how do you mean, or how do you mean exactly? And they will always expand on what they just said and make it clearer for you and easier for you to understand and to respond effectively.